This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 224 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is sponsored by Equestrian Collections, for the whole universe of equestrian shopping at your fingertips at a price you can afford. Visit them at equestriancollections.com. Enjoy today's tip. Hi, Glenn McGee back with you from Lexington, Kentucky, and welcome back to Horse Tip Daily. Today we have back with us one of our most popular guests, and that's Dr. Jenny Johnson. She's back with us every week, and as you know, she is a regular contributor to the Jumping Radio Show, which is part of the Horse Radio Network. This tip is taken off of episode 16 and is co-hosted by Chris Stafford. You can hear the rest of the show by visiting jumpingradio.com. And as we've introduced her many times, Dr. Johnson is with Oak Hill Shockwave and Veterinary Chiropractic Clinic that it's based in Calabasas, California. And we've been getting a lot of emails with people really enjoying these tips, so we appreciate that. And we hope that you enjoy today's as well, right after these words from Kentucky Performance Products. Hi, Glenn the Geek here. Choose Kentucky Performance Product Supplements because the horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. This week I want to speak with you about Elevate Maintenance Powder. Horses consuming limited grass due to a busy competition schedule or because of diet restrictions may not be getting enough natural vitamin E. Horses in rigorous training, seniors, broodmares, and stallions often require additional levels of vitamin E to meet their needs. When you need a supplement with natural vitamin E, choose Elevate Maintenance Powder. Affordable, effective, and research-proven, Elevate Maintenance Powder's vitamin E is nature's most powerful antioxidant, protecting your horse on the cellular level. Elevate Maintenance Powder supports the strong immune system and healthy muscle function necessary for top performance. It's affordable and easy to feed, and you can learn more about this and all their products at kppusa.com. That's Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Well, our veterinary tip of this week it begins with hind limb conformation. If you've been following this series with Dr. Jenny Johnson, you will know that we've had a whole series in forelimb conformation and symmetry. Some great advice there. And we're going to now move to the hind end to look at hind limb conformation. So let's hear from Jenny. Hi, Jenny. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you, Chris. How are you today?
I'm good form, yeah. It's really a wonderful time of the year to be in Kentucky, you know, while the grass is still green before we get to the heat of the summer. And, you know, the horses are just still enjoying this spring weather. It's absolutely beautiful. And how about you?
Well, we're enjoying some lovely weather here. We're in what we call our June gloom here, which is actually quite lovely. It's a bit foggy in the mornings and then quite warm in the afternoon, sort of a preamble to our blistering heat that we'll have further on in the summer.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, last week we talked about the forelimb symmetry, didn't we? And we're going to move on, I believe, this week to the hind limb. And were you going to start with conformation this week?
Yes, I am. We have discussed forelimb conformation and how it relates to lamenesses and may predispose a horse to specific lamenesses. So now I wanted to move on to the hind limb, and we'll talk about the hind limb conformational faults and how they may play a role in specific types of lamenesses.
Very good.
Now, hind limb conformational faults generally tend to be less numerous and less problematic than lamenesses in the forelimb. Or conformational faults in the forelimb, and that's largely due to the differential in weight distribution and the center of gravity. As we talked about when we discussed the forelimb conformation, the center of gravity in the horse roughly is a 60-40 distribution, with 60% of the weight being on the forelimbs and 40% being on the high limbs. And then when you add a rider to that, it can actually go as high as 70% on the forelimbs and 30% on the hind limbs. So the hind limbs have less weight to bear, so they're less predisposed to problems relating from the conformational faults. But having said that, there are a number of conformational faults that can be fairly closely related with lamenesses, and I want to talk a little bit about those today. The first being the horse that is what we call straight behind. Now, these first couple of issues I'm going to talk about will be standing at the side of the horse looking at the lateral perspective. And when you're standing at the side, you'd like to see when you drop a plumb line, basically from the point of the hip that's at the backmost aspect of the horse and drop it down, that should actually touch the back of the hock and then go straight down. And when you look from this side, one of the more common elements to your conformational faults you'll see is the horse that's straight behind. And when I say that, I mean the horse that has straight through the hocks, or may also be referred to as a post leg. And this type of conformation can lead fairly directly to lameness. With this type of conformation, there's a larger stifle angle and there's a larger hock angle. And there's typically a smaller fat angle with this conformation. And this combination of factors can lead frequently to upward fixation of the patella, as well as inflammation and desmitis in the suspensory, and also frequently arthritis in the fetlock. Now, one thing I would like to point out to our listeners is that a horse may go from a normal conformation in the hind limb to this straight behind conformation if they develop a severe suspensory desmitis, because that can lead to a loss of support of the fetlock joint, which will open up that stifle and hock angle, make them straighter through those joints, and actually close up the fetlock joint so they'll have a smaller fetlock joint angle. Now, the converse of that would be the sickle-hocked horse. And in this case, the hind limb is well ahead of that plumb line that we've dropped, and there's the exaggerated concavity to the dorsal or the front surface of the hind limb. So it almost looks like a sickle, if you will, the farm implement. And with this type of conformation, this concentrates the load on the lower back aspect of the hock, and it predisposes to both lower hock pain as well as curb. Now, it's thought that some Western reining horses with sickle hock conformation may actually be able to slow better with this conformation, but that doesn't really apply with our jumping horses. And the Western reining horses, coincidentally, do tend to be more predisposed to developing curbs than the jumping horses do. So, now, moving on from there, we're going to look at the horse from behind and look at the perspective directly behind. And with this conformation, again, we'll be dropping a plumb line directly from point of the hip. Really, it's not really the hip, but on either side of the tail, the bony prominence that is visible there. Drop that straight down. It should go straight down and bisect or cut in half each hind leg. The whole thing that I point out is that the majority of warm bloods will actually have a toe-out conformation behind, and this should actually be considered within the normal range of conformation that you'll find in warm bloods. It's not particularly associated with any increased problems. Now, not just toeing out, but sometimes you'll actually have an external rotation of the hock, and in this case, the point of the hock will be the points of the hock will be pointing together, and the front surface of the hock will be pointing out a little bit. We refer to this as cow-hocked. Now, the horse that has this type of conformation can actually be either base-wide or base-narrow. It rarely leads to a lameness, but it may alter the horse's gait. And the horses that are base-narrow behind, in other words, their feet are inside of that plumb line that we've dropped, they will, most of those horses will travel close behind, especially at the walk. And when they go at the higher speed gaits, the trot or the canter, many of them will widen out at those faster gaits. If they don't, however, they're going to be at risk for interfering, particularly low down on the limb, and that may be a source of lameness just from the trauma of interfering. Now, another aspect of hock conformation is what's called in at the hock, or a valgus conformation. And with this, the hock will actually be on the inside of that plumb line. It'll come in, and then the lower limb will go back out. And this will lead to horses or load in the hock, and it can predispose the horse to hock pain, as well as curb or proximal upper cannon bone lamenesses. And then moving down the leg, at the fetlock, we can have what's called a fetlock varus, which would be the fetlock is going to be in the outside of that plumb line, and this frequently results in a toe-in conformation. Now, this is much less common than either of the issues we talked about in the hock, but it can lead to arthritis of the fetlock, pastern, and coffin joints, and that actually can be career-limiting, that particular type of conformation. So those are the main conformational faults that I want to talk about today and have our listeners think about and start observing in their horses, and how they relate to lamenesses. And then next week we're going to be talking about evaluating the hind limb of the horse and evaluating the symmetry. We'll be looking at muscle atrophy and swelling in the hind limb and how that coincides with lamenesses.
Wonderful. That's very helpful and I think essential, Jenny, to understanding the things that can go wrong as to what you're starting off with.
Yes.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for that. We'll look forward to catching up with you next week as we continue with the symmetrical aspect of the hind limb and looking into that. Thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, thank you to Dr. Johnson and to Chris for bringing us that tip, and we appreciate that. She does cover things thoroughly, but understandably. That's what I like about her. As this tip was taken off of episode 16 of the Jumping Radio Show, which you can find at jumpingradio.com. We appreciate everybody who listens to the shows, and we thank you for doing that. And also, we want to remind you that the 2010 radio show will be broadcasting live every night at 8 o'clock from the World Equestrian Games, or about the World Equestrian Games from the International Equestrian Festival in downtown Lexington every night. So you'll be able to listen in and get a complete wrap-up right here at the Horse Radio Network at 2010radioshow.com, and numerous other websites around the world will be carrying that feed as well. So we look forward to hearing from you, and also you can do that by dropping me an email at the contact link at horsetipdaily.com. And you can find all the other great shows on the network at horseradionetwork.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, stay safe, everyone.